Well, coming to the floor now is we're really pleased to have Donna Wells with us. And so Donna is the founder and CEO of Valencia Ventures. That may not be overly familiar to you, but I certainly know you're familiar with Mint, and you're familiar with MyCFO, and a number of other firms where she's been the tip of the spear as it relates to the brand, the marketing, and so forth. So Donna, we're thrilled you're here. You've been a terrific friend to Sway over the years, and thank you for that. And with that, I'll bring you to the floor. Thanks.
Well, great. Thank you, Sway. Thank you, Silicon Valley Bank, for having me. I'll get right into it. My first job out of business school was with American Express, and American Express is famous long before I got there in coming up with a statement of introduction, first line of their paper-based letters, direct mail to potential American Express card members. It said, the American Express card is not for everyone. And you bet everybody read the second sentence and the third sentence. They were like, what? You know, maybe it's me, should be me. So I have to lead with the caveat that this presentation, in fact, is not for everyone. If you have product market fit, or you can see it from where you're standing, I'm talking to you today. If you don't, then you're probably better off just grabbing a coffee or enjoying the patio or that for a while, and we'll catch up after the fact. So very specific target market for this audience. Hopefully it's helpful. Well, how do you know if you have product market fit? First, the definition, for those of you that might not be aware, and this comes to us by way of Mark Andreessen, product market fit means being in a good market with a product that can satisfy that market. So pretty straightforward, right? I have a couple big problems with this, but we'll start with this for now. So how do you know if you have product market fit? It's rarely you wake up Monday morning and say, oh, I didn't have fit on Friday, it's Monday, I have it now. It's rarely that discreet. Would that it were. But the good news is there's a very simple, straightforward test to quantify whether or not you've got product market fit. This is something that Sean Ellis came up with. And you ask a question via a simple SurveyMonkey survey or similar. How would you feel if you could no longer use, fill in the blank with the name of your product? How would you feel if you could no longer use Sway Ventures or Silicon Valley Bank? In this case, Hit and Shaw did a survey that said fully 51% of Slack users tell us they'd be very disappointed if they couldn't use Slack anymore. 71% of Google Analytics users very disappointed if they couldn't use Google Analytics anymore. And the benchmark is, if this survey comes back on your product or service at 40% or better, you're good. If it's less than 40%, you've still got iterations to work through on your product. Now, this is only valid. The caveat is if you have a big enough user base that's comprised of people actually paying for your product that are not your college roommates, not your mother-in-law, not your girlfriend, not your boyfriend. If you don't have a large enough user base, and I'd encourage you to do this survey early and often, you can certainly look at it qualitatively. And I think it was Thurgood Marshall that said, I can't define pornography, but I know it when I see it. Product market fit is like that. You'll know it when you've got it. And when you don't have fit, it looks a lot like the image and feels a lot like the image on the left. Okay, you're alone. It's incredibly hard work. It's cold. You're probably bleeding from your knuckles and elbows and everywhere else. It's pretty dire, okay? User growth is not strong. Word of mouth is not spreading. The product reviews are kind of meh, you know, and it's just not gelling for you. Everything is really hard, okay? Cold, nasty, British and short. On the other hand, if you have product market fit, and I love this image as the analogy, it's fun. User growth is working, word of mouth is spreading, the reviews are coming back awesome, you know, VCs are inbound calling you, customers are inbound calling you. It's a delight. Now, some people are still getting killed in the process. You can see this big ball is rolling over some humans. There is scar tissue with product market fit. Is working because you're adding server capacity as fast as you possibly can and hiring salespeople and customer support people as fast as you can, but there are still consequences and there's still Still a lot of work to be done. I'll give you my favorite example of this. When I was with Mint and we had product market fit, it was in some cases laughable, the great stuff that was coming our way that we didn't deserve. And TechCrunch one day, I remember, ran a whole post just on the fact that we'd redesigned our website. And I was like, we don't deserve that. We're going to get another 500,000 users from this. And it's not fair. But you know what? Take it when you got it, because it's a rare and wonderful thing. So enjoy it when you have it. So that's the quantitative and the qualitative steps. So product market fit. Again, if you're not there yet, the rest of this presentation really not for you. Please step into the bar. What I'm really going to talk about is something slightly different than product market fit that not enough people, I think, talk about, product marketing fit. It's a step beyond product market fit, and it's a really important step. In fact, I'd argue the critical step in this three-part system. But what most entrepreneurs focus on is product market fit and then jump into growth. Okay, we got product market fit. Let's go raise a growth round. Let's hire a bunch of salespeople or engineers or spend a bunch of money on advertising. And the analogy here for me is the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid movie. I don't know how many of you have seen it or remember the scene where they've robbed a bank. Paul Newman and Robert Redford, they've robbed a bank. They've gotten themselves to the edge of a cliff over a raging river. And the posse of G-men is coming up behind them. And they got one choice. They can either be arrested or they can jump like 3 stories down to this raging river.
What's the matter with you? I can't swim! Why, are you crazy? The fall will probably kill you.
This is the fall, or this is where you jump off the cliff and soar. This is what folks should really be focusing on, the second step, and I think too many entrepreneurs miss it for a variety of reasons. So my problem with the product statement, the product market fit statement that Mark gives us is I think this is a recipe for a company you're building to flip. And it's a strategy, sell early, sometimes you thread that needle and you get lucky. I think for people that really want to build a great company, what you really need to strive for is not just product market fit, but go further to product marketing fit. Because this means all the goodness that Andreessen is defining, which is appropriate, but you're satisfying a target market with the outlook of we're going to meet this group's needs for many years to come. It's not a one and done. We're actually going to activate these customers. They're going to use our product. They're going to upgrade. They're going to upsell. They're going to tell their friends about it. They're going to renew. And we need to deliver that at unit economics that are positive, okay? You got to do it at a profit. So that, to me, is my definition of product market fit. Couple of steps to get this done, 4 or 5 steps. First step, differentiation. And to me, it's a Mad Libs exercise. So you just need to sit down with your leadership team, fill in the blanks on this statement. For a target market who have a specific pain point, our product is the product description, product category that provides these benefits that, unlike our competition, only with our product can customers get tangible benefit number 1, tangible benefit number 2. This is really hard work. Does anyone in the room, can you honestly say you have this for your company right now? I've been doing this for 30 years. This is hard. It's really hard. So sit down with your founders, try to get it done. Then run it past the rest of your company. And if you can come to an agreement, I'd say you're 3/4 of the way toward product marketing fit. It's a super, super powerful exercise, okay? Just a commentary on the last 2 points. These last 2 unique benefits, you need to fill this out for your key competitors and make sure they can't say the same thing, okay? I'm on the board of a financial services institution, and they gave me 2 benefits. I'm forcing them through this exercise. They gave me these 2 benefits. I'm like, tell me why your top 4 competitors couldn't say the exact same thing to the exact same customer. As part of that, target market focus. One of the things we got right at Mint, and we got a lot of things wrong, but of sort of the top 2 or 3 things we got right, was we identified very early that our target segments, we had a potential for 3, Jasons, Karens, and Andys, and we never, ever did anything in the first 2 years, or the only 2 years that we survived as an independent company, for anyone other than Jason. Product design was about Jason. Marketing channel choice was about Jason. The content we were writing was about Jason, all about Jason. And the product needs of the Karens, the sort of suburban housewife managing the family budget, in the Andes, you know, the middle-aged gentleman who is currently using Quicken and might be interested in Mint someday, completely ignored their requirements for 2 years. And having that focus allowed us to build a company that Intuit was willing to buy for $170 million, which was about 60 times revenue at the time, with a team of 25, of whom about 12 were engineers. So focus was really critical. Hard to do, hard to say no. The second step in product marketing fit is price. And most people are surprised that I put this of second importance, that I put it that high, I should say. You need to price for the value delivered to your audience, and there's an audience for everything. Anybody here want to admit that they bought a $399 juice row device? No one's willing to admit it. There's a market for everything. If you want a $400 juice press in your home on your countertop, there's a market for it, and it's largely people like Ivanka Trump, and they're shopping for something that's absolutely healthy, but a bit of, you know, chicness to it, a bit of being the early adopter, a bit of, you know, some sort of exclusiveness to that. So you need to price for that market that you just defined, but then the caveat here is you really need to test that. Because what they found when the product hit the market was that you didn't need the $399 device in order to get juice out of the packets that they were selling you. You could actually squeeze it by hand. So that whole benefit became available to you for free, as opposed to for, you know, $399, you can pay $3.99 for the packet, or $3.99 for a bottle of juice that comes in a nice glass jar. So testing aggressively, set your price for your target market, but then make sure that you're being realistic for, again, the long haul. This worked out for us really well at my last company, Mindflash, which was a B2B cloud platform used for corporate training. I found that relative to my competition and a lot of the other cloud-based companies that friends and family were running, we were paying a lot more attention to price. And this is why it was paying off for us quite well. We launched as a company with a monthly service of, let's call it X. Within a couple of years, we had totally shifted the gate that we were charging on, and we were earning 20X. 3 years later, we were getting 100X because we had changed our contract terms and our gating metric again at one point. So a lot of power here, as long as you have the right tools. We'd signed up for Zora and had it working before we actually had our first paying customer. As long as you're choosing the right gates. We originally made a bunch of mistakes in having our product gated based on the number of users, which prevented people from expanding the product's footprint within their company, which was stupid. We finally changed on a feature set, and that led to the first bump. And it also took me a good long while to get out of my Mint.com B2C mindset and start moving into annual and then multi-year contracts, and that led to the increase in annual contract value in the last 3 years. So a lot of opportunities in price. I would say of the 4 or 5 levers to product marketing fit I'm going to talk about today, this is the one that's probably the easiest ignored by founding teams, sadly, because it's super powerful. On to acquisition, third step. There are a million channels you can use to identify, make yourself build awareness among those target markets that you just identified and focused down on, right? Anything from organic search to Instagram to Pinterest to Snapchat, you name it. The key thing here for me is pick any 2 or 3 to start with, test all 3, figure out which one, if you're really lucky 2, but typically 1 is working, double down on that, and repeat, and repeat. Find another 2 channels, test those. If you get lucky, that's a second one that you can add to your arsenal, double down on that. So million channels, totally dependent on who you're reaching. Again, if you're going after Ivanka Trump, you're going to advertise in different channels than if you're going after the target market for the $3.99 pre-squeezed cold pressed juice. And then you need to test those channels quite strenuously. And I think we're going to talk later about other tools. I have a list of tools that I recommend. But at each step in this process, you need to have your product really well instrumented so that at each fall-off point, not just your head of marketing, not just your head of sales, but you as the CEO know what these percentage fall-off rates are. Can't overemphasize how important I think that is. Because if the CEO understands where you're losing people in the funnel, he or she understands where do the investment dollars need to go in order to change this trajectory from where we are now to something with positive unit economics or even better unit economics, and on to, sort of that positive cycle of profitable growth. So the instrumentation, hugely important. And it's gonna vary critically depending not only on the target market for sure, but also on the product that you're selling. This is the distribution of new users acquired by source that we had for Mint. As you can see, Mindflash, very different. Mint was a free product. Mindflash was, at the end of the day, quite an expensive product. B2C for Mint, B2B for Mindflash. And as a result, very different sources. So again, your results will certainly vary, but the key thing is that you're testing and measuring your way into the channels that are optimal to expose your product at the price you've chosen to the target market that you're going after. Last but not least, what happens after acquisition? And again, this is an area probably second only to price where I see founders and entrepreneurs missing a big opportunity. And this is what happens after acquisition. Okay, there's a great study out. It's probably in its 6th or 7th year. Sway probably has something similar, not as familiar with yours, I apologize. But a group that used to be known as Pacific Crest and is now known as KBCM, KeyBank Capital Markets, I think, annually does a survey of several hundred entrepreneurs, like 300 or 400 startups, all in the SaaS space, and asks them for very detailed, granular metrics about their business, and people tell them. Why? Because data like this is priceless to get and really difficult to find. What I did here was say, look, based on their most recent study, which came out sometime in the last 3 or 4 months, I think, what's the median SaaS company performance on what I'm calling product marketing fit? And this is it. Now, I tell you, it ain't pretty. So this is median performance for companies greater than 5 million in ARR. I just picked 10 million as your previous year's run rate. But on average, they're growing about 3 million in new acquisition, about 30%. They're adding about 1 million after acquisition, so upsells, cross-sells, price increases, any source of added revenue from the existing customer base. And they're losing about, I think it's about 8% in churn on average. Okay, so you got, a 30% growth rate. And guess what? It only gets harder. Very few companies increase their growth rate as the size of their company increases in size, right? So 30 in this picture is probably, your ceiling, and it's going down from there. I don't want to speak for Sway Ventures, but, 30 going to 25, going to 20 and 15 ain't all that exciting. And guess what? Your engineers are gonna see it the same way. So the median performance on product marketing fit is not something I advocate. This is not a lot of fun for a business to run, let me tell you. On the other hand, if you can get your product marketing fit performance into the highest quartile, again, per the same study, the same 300 or 400 companies that they've surveyed over the last year, you can be growing 70%. You can be running a business that's not only profitable for every dollar of additional revenue you're bringing in, which was the case before, is still the case in this scenario, but you're also making money on your new acquisition. Your months to payback is less than 12 months. I think in this case it's something like 6 or 8 months. So every new dollar that you're bringing in is positive to your bottom line in that fiscal year. And how do you get that right? Again, you've got a differentiation statement. You've priced for the value that you're delivering to the target market you've identified. You've tested your way through to a bunch of channels that have positive unit economics for your target market and your product and your value proposition at your price. And as a result, you're running a machine here that's cash flow positive. You're running something that's growing at 70%, and I would argue has some opportunity to grow even faster than that. And most importantly, engineers are calling you instead of you calling them, and your current engineering team is talking to their buddies and saying, hey, dude, you ought to come work for our company. We are crushing it. So again, that's the difference between median, which ain't that pretty, and top quartile performance on what I'm calling product marketing fit. So from the same study, I can tell you if you're looking for the shortcut to say, okay, that was all interesting, but give me the 6 things I should look at in order to put my company on the good side, the side of lightness and success, as opposed to the darkness at the median. It's first and foremost have the customer insight to know who your target market is. You could spend 20 minutes on customer insight. I think we're going to hear about customer insight from a master later, but understanding what you need to know in order to create that differentiation statement, first and foremost. Test your acquisition channels, test your pricing. Sales channel is key. And onboarding, customization, and professional services is one of those things that, gosh, if I had realized that before I started Mindflash, I would have saved myself a couple of scars. And this speaks to any dollar that you can spend on either onboarding, customization, or professional services pays itself back in order of magnitude in terms of activation, usage, and retention. So all of us poo-poo professional services, and I did for years as well, because the margins, are 30%, whereas the margins on software are like 80, 90%. But the reality is we're measuring the wrong thing, and if you give credit to your professional services for actually increasing the usage and retention of that customer, you actually end up with a very different decision-making process. So I'd encourage everybody to be spending more than they are today on onboarding and professional services. And there's a list of logos of a couple of tools that I recommend. Full list in a minute. So I like this quote by Pierre Lachelle: nothing kills a bad product faster than good advertising. You got to get this stuff right. Okay, if you have poor product market fit, but you, after this presentation, go run home and you're crushing it on your marketing fig, you're acquiring like crazy, and you priced well, and you're retaining and activating users, but you find out the product is really poor, guess what? You'll be gone very quickly. And the example I use here is spectacles from Snap. Apologies if anybody here is from Snapchat. Not a great product, but I would say the advertising on that was awesome. I think most of America had heard that they were selling glasses out of kiosks on a first-come, first-served basis, and you had to check on Instagram to see where the kiosk was going to be in your town this day. I mean, it was a lot of buzz, but the product didn't fulfill on the promise, and ultimately, they are no more. So really, to me, no presentation is complete without a 2x2 matrix. If you don't have product market fit, but you're kicking it on product and marketing, you're where Pierre talks about. You've killed your product by exposing it too early, potentially to the wrong group. But with product market fit and product marketing fit is the only basis on which, in my opinion, you get the opportunity to do what I think all of us as entrepreneurs really want to do, is not build something to flip it, not hope that you have the benefit of an irrational acquirer, but instead actually get the opportunity to build a team, see a company grow to fruition, be self-sustaining, be cash flow positive, be profitable, retain equity for the employees that built the business, make a lot of money for the VCs that funded the business, and be able to look back with great pride on building that great company. So that's how I feel about product marketing fit. Tools list. Thank you.
Donna, you said something when we were doing some prep that kind of strikes me, and it really wasn't covered here. Harkening back to your CMO days at Mint, and you're driving your strategy, and then there's a CRO that's driving his or her strategy, and the CEO would love to have good synergy across that group. Maybe some advice or some thoughts on how you do that. There's kind of a natural tension. Anything you can add there would be helpful.
Yeah, I think so I think stated more bluntly, it's like, how do you get your head of marketing, your head of sales to actually be pulling together toward a bright and glorious future, as opposed to pulling apart and arguing over resources, which is kind of how it feels on a day-to-day basis. And I think ultimately it's a responsibility of the CEO. You have to set up systems and constraints and a culture which says, you know what, I'm not going to put up with this kind of bullshit. And the reason I'm not going to put up with this is because our customers deserve better, and the rest of the employees outside of the two of you within our startup certainly deserve a lot better. So, you know, the one tactic I had put in place at Mindflash, having learned some lessons at Mint, was we had a Thursday afternoon, 3 o'clock stakeholders meeting where we sat down with a product roadmap, which is, of course, the biggest resource argument of any startup company, any software startup. And we had a list of the product roadmap, force ranked. And all of my execs were in the room, head of sales, head of marketing, head of product, head of engineering. And we didn't leave the room until we had all as a group reapproved, maybe changed, maybe unchanged, the force ranking of the product roadmap for the next period of time. Sometimes it was a couple weeks, sometimes a couple months, depending where we were in, you know, within the release calendar. And I used to call it the most important meeting of the week and also the saddest meeting of the week. Everybody left that room a little bit sad, you know, which is the definition of a compromise. I never got everything I wanted. You know, everyone else left with the same feeling. But the discipline of that held us all accountable to making decisions together, to making decisions cooperatively, and to eliminating the blowback after the fact, which is the head of fill in the blank, going back to his or her team and saying, oh, well, you know, we had to prioritize the new, you know, blue feature, and I really wanted the red feature, and gripe. No, there was none of that allowed. So CEO needs to set up the process and enforce it. So we're all in this together.
That's a great point. Thank you. Donna, thank you so much.